She appeared from nowhere during Elvis's most intimate song, and when the spotlight hit her face, Elvis stopped singing completely. The woman's identity would explain mysteries about Elvis that fans had wondered about for years. It was August 16th, 1976, exactly 1 year before Elvis would leave this world, and he was performing at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis for what would become one of his most talked-about hometown shows. The crowd of 25,000 was electric, and Elvis was in peak form, having already mesmerized the audience with Burning Love, Hound Dog, and Suspicious Minds. As the concert moved into its more intimate second half, Elvis walked to center stage with just an acoustic guitar. This was always the part of his shows where he connected most deeply with his audience, stripping away the spectacle to reveal the raw emotion that made him the king. He began playing the opening chords to Love Me Tender, the song that had launched his career and remained closest to his heart. The arena fell silent, 25,000 people hanging on every note. But tonight something was different. As Elvis sang the first verse alone, a second voice began to harmonize from somewhere in the darkness behind him. At first, Elvis thought it was one of his backup singers joining in early. But something about this voice was different. It was pure, untrained, and heartbreakingly beautiful. More importantly, it knew harmonies to Love Me Tender that Elvis had never heard before, harmonies that somehow made the song sound more complete than it ever had. Elvis continued singing, but his eyes were searching the darkened backstage area, trying to locate the source of this mysterious voice. The audience was mesmerized, not just by Elvis, but by the haunting beauty of the unknown harmonies floating from the shadows. Then, slowly, a figure began to emerge from the darkness. A woman in a simple black dress walked onto the stage, her face hidden in shadow. She moved with quiet confidence, as if she belonged there, as if she had every right to join Elvis Presley in front of 25,000 people. Security guards started to move forward, but Elvis, without breaking his performance, held up his hand to stop them. Something about this woman, something about her voice, something about the way she moved, had captured his complete attention. As she got closer to the microphone, Elvis could see more of her features in the stage lights. She appeared to be in her early 40s, with dark hair streaked with silver and eyes that seemed familiar, though he couldn't place where he might have seen them before. When the woman stepped fully into the spotlight, something unprecedented happened. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, stopped singing completely and stared at her in shock. His guitar continued playing automatically, his fingers following the familiar chords, but his voice was gone. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. The woman, however, continued singing Love Me Tender with a voice so beautiful and pure that the audience barely noticed Elvis had stopped. Her voice filled the arena, carrying the melody with an emotion that brought tears to thousands of eyes. For about 30 seconds, Elvis just stared at her, his mouth slightly open, his eyes wide with disbelief. Then, in a voice that was barely audible but picked up by his microphone, he whispered one word. Diane. That single word sent shockwaves through Elvis's inner circle. Anyone who had been close to Elvis in the early days knew that name. Diane Sullivan had been Elvis's first real girlfriend, his first love, the girl who had been with him when he made his first recordings at Sun Records in 1954. She was also the girl who had broken his heart when she left Memphis in 1955 to marry someone else, crushing 20-year-old Elvis's dreams of a normal life with the woman he loved. For over 20 years, Elvis had wondered what happened to Diane Sullivan. He'd tried to find her several times, but she had disappeared completely, leaving no trace of where she'd gone or what she'd become. And now here she was on his stage, singing the song that had been playing on the radio the night she'd told him goodbye. "Diane," Elvis said again, this time louder, his voice thick with emotion. "Is that really you?" The woman Diane smiled through her own tears and nodded. "Hello, Elvis. I've been wanting to hear you sing that song in person for 21 years. The audience was confused but captivated. They could sense they were witnessing something incredibly personal and important, even if they didn't understand what it was. Elvis set down his guitar and walked over to Diane. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Two people who had once been everything to each other, now meeting again after more than 2 decades. "I can't believe you're here," Elvis said, his voice breaking. "I can't believe you're really here. I've been to 12 of your concerts over the years," Diane said into the microphone, her voice carrying clearly through the arena. "I always sat in the back, always left before the end. But tonight, I couldn't stay in the shadows anymore." "Ladies and gentlemen," Elvis said to the audience, his composure slowly returning, "I want you to meet someone very special. This is Diane Sullivan, and she taught me how to sing love songs." The audience applauded, still not fully understanding but recognizing the emotional weight of the moment. "Elvis," Diane said, "I need to tell you something I should have told you 21 years ago." Elvis looked at her, his heart pounding. "What is it, Diane?" "I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because I loved you too much." The arena went completely silent. You could hear 25,000 people holding their breath. "In 1955, Diane continued, her voice strong and clear, "you were just starting to become famous. The record label wanted you to tour, to make movies, to become a star. And I knew that if I stayed, I would hold you back." She looked out at the massive audience, then back at Elvis. "I knew you were destined for something bigger than little old Diane Sullivan from Memphis. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I married someone else, not because I loved him more, but because I loved you enough to let you become who you were meant to be." Elvis was crying now, not caring that 25,000 people could see him. "Diane, you didn't hold me back. Losing you, that's what I've been singing about for 20 years. Every love song, every ballad about heartbreak, that was about you." "Elvis," Diane said softly, "would you sing with me? One more time, like we used to in your mama's living room?" Elvis nodded, picked up his guitar, and began playing "Love Me Tender" again. But this time, they sang it together from the beginning. What followed was the most emotionally charged duet in concert history. Elvis and Diane's voices blended together as if no time had passed at all, as if they were still those young people in love, dreaming about their future together. The audience was mesmerized. Many people were crying, not just because of the beautiful music, but because they could feel the raw emotion, the history, the love and loss that was pouring out of both singers. After the song ended, Elvis looked at Diane with all the questions that had haunted him for decades. Were you happy with your marriage?" Diane smiled sadly. "I was content. I had 3 beautiful children. My husband was a good man who loved me. But happy? Really happy? No, Elvis. I don't think I've been truly happy since I left you." "Are you still married?" "I'm a widow," Diane said. "My husband passed away 2 years ago. That's when I started coming to your concerts. I needed to see you, to hear you sing, to remember what real happiness felt like." Elvis took her hands. "Diane stands. I never married anyone else. I mean, I married Priscilla, But it was never the same. You were my first love. You were my real love. The audience was completely captivated by this intimate conversation happening in front of them. They understood they were witnessing something incredibly rare. A love story playing out in real time, 21 years in the making. Elvis, someone called out from the audience, sing another song together. Other voices joined in, and soon thousands of people were calling for Elvis and Diane to continue performing together. Elvis looked at Diane. "What do you say? Want to help me finish this show?" Diane smiled, the first completely happy smile she'd worn in over 20 years. "I thought you'd never ask." What followed was an hour-long concert within a concert. Elvis and Diane performed song after song together, their voices blending perfectly, their chemistry undeniable even after all these years apart. They sang "Can't Help Falling in Love," and it sounded like a conversation between two people admitting their feelings. They performed "It's Now or Never," and it felt like a declaration that they weren't going to waste any more time. During "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" they actually answered the song's questions, talking to each other through the lyrics in a way that was both heartbreaking and beautiful. As the evening wound down, Elvis did something that shocked everyone, including himself. "Diane," he said into the microphone, in front of 25,000 people, "I have a question for you. The same question I wanted to ask you 21 years ago." He got down on one knee on the stage, pulling out a ring that he'd worn on his finger for years. A simple band that fans had always wondered about. "This was my grandmother's ring," Elvis said. "I've been carrying it since 1955, waiting for the right moment. Diane Sullivan, will you marry me?" The arena erupted. 25,000 people were on their feet, screaming, crying, cheering for this real-life fairy tale happening before their eyes. Diane was sobbing, but she was smiling too. "Elvis Aaron Presley, I have been waiting 21 years for you to ask me that question. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." What happened next was pure magic. Elvis slipped the ring onto Diane's finger, and the entire arena became a massive wedding celebration. 25,000 people singing, cheering, crying happy tears for two people who had found their way back to each other after more than 2 decades apart. Elvis and Diane kissed on stage, and the audience went wild. Grown men were crying. Women were throwing flowers onto the stage. It was like the entire city of Memphis was celebrating the reunion of their favorite son with his first love. The story of Elvis and Diane's reunion became front-page news around the world. The woman who had vanished from Elvis's life in 1955 had returned in the most dramatic way possible, and their love story captured the imagination of millions. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at Graceland, with only family and close friends present. But the real wedding had happened on that stage in Memphis, in front of 25,000 witnesses who would never forget the night love conquered time. Finding Diane again transformed Elvis in his final year. Friends said he was happier, more at peace, more content than he'd been in decades. He'd finally found the missing piece of his heart. Elvis always said he was searching for something, recalled his friend Jerry Schilling. After Diane came back, he stopped searching. He'd found what he was looking for. The bootleg recording of that night became one of the most treasured Elvis recordings among fans, not just for the music, but for the incredible love story it documented. Diane and Elvis had only 10 months together before his death in August 1977, but those 10 months were the happiest of his life. Diane often said that those 10 months made up for the 21 years they'd lost. The story of Elvis and Diane reminds us that some love stories are so powerful they can survive decades of separation. It shows us that it's never too late for second chances, that true love can wait, and that sometimes the most important moments in our lives happen in front of thousands of strangers. On August 16, 1976, Elvis Presley was giving just another concert in Memphis. Instead, he was reunited with his first love in the most magical way possible, creating a moment that proved that real life can be more incredible than any fairy tale. The mystery woman who joined Elvis on stage that night wasn't really a mystery at all. She was the answer to every love song he'd ever sung, every ballad about lost love, every moment of heartbreak he'd experienced since 1955. Sometimes the most important people in our lives are the ones we think we've lost forever. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, they find their way back to us when we need them most. If this incredible story of love conquering time moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about the power of second chances and never giving up on true love. Have you ever reconnected with someone from your past in an unexpected way? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the moments that change everything.